Hey folks, Todd at Freedom Fighter Tactical. In this video, we are going to do a comprehensive explanation of the two skeletonized stocks that are being put on the Benelli M4s to help answer tons of questions and give you guys a roadmap of what these stocks are, what works with these stocks, and what to expect. Let's get started right now. Hey folks, Todd at Freedom Fighter Tactical again. Welcome to the channel. If you're new here, be sure to hit the button, subscribe down below, hit the bell so you're notified. Leave a thumbs up if you like this kind of content, and of course leave a comment if you have anything you'd like to discuss. You can also call me at the phone number here on the video. You can text me there as well. There's a contact page on the website, freedomfightertactical.com, where you can send me an email. Most people don't do that anymore. There's also a texting feature on the website in, I think, the bottom right corner of the screen. And all of these ways that you can contact me go to my cell phone, so you don't need to contact me all 4 different ways. You can contact me any which way that you prefer, and rest assured I will get it and will respond just as quick as I can. I do have a couple of videos to help the new guys out. One is, or courses actually, they're video courses and they're completely free. If you go to www.buyyourm4.com, I teach you what you need to know about buying your M4 and what to expect and what to look for and what to avoid, that sort of thing. And then if you go to www.buildyourm4.com, you will have a complete free video series on building this gun out and all the different choices that you have and things that you might have thought of that you need some clarity on, and things that you might not have even thought of. And finally, for those who are wishing to build their gun in 922 compliant fashion, there is a page, 922rlaws.com. That takes you to my 922R page. It gives you everything you need to know about 922R, along with some videos that I've made about 922R through the years, and hot links to all the parts that count for 922R compliance that you have to choose from at Freedom Fighter Tactical. If you don't see the part on the list, it doesn't count. That's the whole idea behind the list of parts with the hot links. So when you go over there and you see charging handle is not in the list and you want to call me up, oh my gosh, does the charging handle work? No, it's not in the list. It does not count if it's not in the list. So those are resources to help you guys out. This is going to be a resource that I send people to in the future because I get a ton of questions about the collapsible stocks, which one is which, what works with what, and we're gonna get to the bottom of it. Okay, in this first picture is the 70085 stock. Benelli mistakenly calls this a 3-position stock. It's not, it's just simply a stock. This is the stock that's been on the gun for 25, 30 years, and it is iconic. It is the stock that most everyone wants. And it is the stock that, like I said, they've been selling it on the gun for 25, 30 years at least, ever since I got into Benelli's myself, which was years before I started this business. But this is the stock that everybody wants. And who am I to call out why, Benelli for calling this a 3-position stock when it's not a 3-position stock? I'll explain why. The tube, this stock sits on what's called a recoil tube or a buffer tube. This tube will have notches in it. Benelli makes tubes for this stock that have 1 notch and have 3 notches. And that's how they sell it. The civilian sales, you're gonna find this gun with 1 notch. It means it's locked in place at the fullest position. So if it's locked at one spot, how is this a 3-position stock? It's a 1-position stock because the tube dictates how many positions it has. The civilian version of the gun that has this stock on it is gonna have 1 position. So it's a 1-position stock. Just like I said, if it's got the 3-position tube, then now it's a 3-position stock. So Benelli sells the 3-position tube with the stock that fits on 3 different positions. On the law enforcement version, they do not sell that gun. It's not intended to be sold to civilians. It comes in this country, built the way it's built for law enforcement only. And dealers are actually instructed to sell this only to law enforcement. This is the one that has the adjustable 3-position stock. The 1-position stock is meant for retail sales. So when you go to Cabela's When you go to Shields or whatever it's called, or any other gun store, and you see this on the shelf and it's in one position, that's a gun intended for retail sales. That gun's also going to have a 5 shell magazine tube on it, where the law enforcement version that has the 3-position tube and the 3-position stock is going to have a 7 round magazine tube. Technically, it is a violation of 922R for Benelli to sell the law enforcement directly to consumers. Of course, they're not doing it. They're selling it to dealers who are told to sell to law enforcement and who likely are selling directly to law enforcement. But when they have a few guns left over from a deal with the department somewhere, they just want to dispose of them. So they get rid of them. And so those end up on shelves sometimes and sold directly to the public. But that's not what's intended to be. Those are intended for law enforcement sales. This stock is the one that everybody's wanted. It's been the kind of the grail stock, and it's more plentiful now than it's ever been in the history of the stock. But even still, they're rare and expensive, and they're not necessarily hard to find anymore, but they don't come cheap. And you know, this is what you want. Okay, so the next picture I'm showing you is this is stock 70132. The stock I showed you a minute ago, the 70085, I've always called that the American version because historically that is the version that has been sold in the United States on shotguns. This version, the 70132, traditionally has been sold on Benelli M4s in Europe. At least that's my understanding. I haven't gone to Europe into the gun stores to check it out, but it's been my understanding. All of my sources have told me that this stock tends to be on the Benelli M4s sold in Europe. Where you've seen this stock sold in America on shotguns has been M3 shotguns, and which are law enforcement, and Supernovas, which are also law enforcement. And again, historically, if you ever bought an M3 or a Supernova that had this stock on it with multiple positions back 10, 15 years ago, those guns were intended for law enforcement sales. They weren't intended for consumer sales because technically they're not complying with 922R. Law enforcement they don't have to comply with 922R, but the civilians do, and the civilian gun sales have to adhere to the import laws that are out there. So that's what this stock is. Recently, in the last few years, Benelli has released what they call the T Pro. A lot of people are calling this the Gen 2. It's not a Gen 2, okay? This is a law enforcement only gun. The T Pro is a law enforcement only gun. It comes equipped with this stock on it with a 5-position tube, which allows this stock to go to 5 positions. These guns typically come with an oversized charging handle, an oversized bolt release button. They come with a rail system 4-end contraption that instead of their standard traditional 4-end that they've put on Benelli M4 since the beginning of time. And they come with a 7-round mag tube. People out there, consumers in the marketplace, on YouTube, on the forums, they're thinking people are acting like this is Benelli's answer to the 1301, Benelli's answer to other semi-automatic shotguns, the evolution of the M4. Nothing could be further from the truth. This is a law enforcement only weapon. It is not to be sold to customers, consumers, the retail market. Does that mean it isn't sold to consumers or retail market? Just like the other version, these dealers buy, they might buy 10 guns or 20 guns for a department, and then the department takes 18 and there's 2 guns left over. They just let them go. They get rid of them. They don't want to keep them on the shelf. They don't want to, so they find ways of getting rid of them, which means sometimes you find them on a rack somewhere. Those are called deals. You snap them up when you see them because that's a nice deal for you. The version with the 70132 comes, like I said, with the stock, the 5-position recoil tube, the oversized charging handle, the oversized bolt release button, the rail system, and the 7-round mag tube, okay? So that's the T Pro, law enforcement only. It's not a Gen 2. In fact, I talked to Benelli. They told me if there was gonna be a Gen 2, they would just simply call it the M5. This is not a replacement of the historic traditional Benelli M4 in any way imaginable. This is simply a law enforcement gun. And actually I was told that the reason why they even introduced this in the first place is that law enforcement, sometimes the stocks on the historic version, the 70085, those stocks and recoil tubes are harder to adjust quickly than the version with the 70132 stock, the European style stock. Those versions are very easy to change from, say, the furthest out position to the closest in position. Very, very quick. And it's just the design and the difference in the heat treat and how the heat treat puts a slight warp into the other tubes. These tubes, the tubes on the European style, I do not think have the same level of heat treat as the original version. And therefore they're just easier to change from one position to the next. So law enforcement, some law enforcement has had gripes about the ability to quickly adjust the stock. So Benelli's answer was the T Pro. So that's all it's about. It's not about a Gen 2. It's not about competing with Beretta. It's not about competing with SIG or anybody else that's getting into shotguns. It's not a new M4 taking over the old M4. None of that's true. And when people call it Gen 2, that's what people are thinking. And that's what, even if the person that's calling it a Gen 2 isn't thinking that, 10 people that read that comment are gonna walk away from it thinking, oh, this is Benelli's new gun. It's not Benelli's new gun. It's just simply an alternative for law enforcement who wants to be able to adjust the stock quickly and easier than the original stock. And you've got 2 extra spots to boot. Personally, I think the stock is uglier than can be, but maybe if that had been the stock that had been around for 30 years and they were introducing the American style now, maybe I would feel differently and would be opposite. Sometimes you get accustomed to what you've seen and you don't like something that's new. Okay, so one of the big problems that people have with these 2 stocks are their options with the recoil tubes. So if you buy a gun that does not come with the European style stock on it, you're gonna have a recoil tube that's what I've called the American version recoil tube. The recoil tube part number on your gun is gonna be 70043. That's an assembly. That's the tube with all the parts already installed. And if you bought this gun in America and you have that, any Benelli stock on it other than the European style 70132 stock, you are going to have a 70043. It's either going to be a 1 position or a 3 position. That's all Benelli makes for this gun, 1 and 3 position. Most of you are going to have the 1 position where your stock won't move at all. And the few of you who found a law enforcement version are going to have a 3 position. The 70132 comes with only 1 tube. It comes with a 70136. That's the assembly 5 position tube that works with this stock. The stocks do not mix and the tubes do not mix. So you've got the 70085 stock. That tube only works with the tubes made for that stock. And the 70132 stock only works with the tubes made for that stock. The tubes made for that stock will not work with the 70085. And the tubes made for the 70085 will not work with the 70132 stock. So people get really confused over this. And let's say they get the American stock, but then they want the 5 position tube and they think they can buy that 5 position tube and put it on the American stock. No, that doesn't work. People with the 5 position stock and tube want the traditional stock, the 70085. So they want to pop that 70132 off because it's ugly and put the 70085 on there. No, that doesn't work, okay? The only way it works is if you remove the tube and the stock off the 70085 version and get rid of it and put the 70132 and 70136 on your gun. Additionally, on the European style, you want to get rid of that ugly stock, you're going to have to take that stock off, that tube off, and switch it entirely to the 70085 and the 70043 tube, okay? Now, interestingly enough, any other Benelli stocks work with either one of these tubes. So if you want to use a pistol grip stock, a field stock, they're going to work on either one of these tubes, okay? The notches in the tubes are what's different. And the 70085 stock has almond-shaped cutouts. They're rounded, and they only have one cutout for each spot. And they're rounded and they're shallow, and that stock has the right component in it that fits into those almond notches. The 70132 has square box cut notches, and there's 2 notches for every position instead of 1. And the Benelli stock 70132, the Euro stock was what I call it, of course, that stock has inside it notches that are proprietary, or what fits in those notches perfectly. That's why it won't convert to the other tube. So they're unique in that way, and people have such a hard time understanding that there's no crossover here. So another thing, going back to the discussion about the T-Pro Gen 2, everyone mistakenly calling it a Gen 2. Another reason why Benelli said that it's law enforcement only, they do not offer this stock in a one position like they do the 70085. The 70085 version of the stock being sold to consumers is pinned in the one position, the fully extended position. That's strictly a consumer retail gun. They haven't made the same thing for the T-Pro. They only offer it in the 5 position. That further backs the point that it's a law enforcement only gun. Benelli's not allowed to sell these guns to you guys direct. They're not allowed to import them for sale to you in a configuration that violates 922R. What happens after they're already here and dealers putting them out on their shelf anyway, that's a whole different discussion and a whole different consideration. But Benelli doesn't sell those guns to dealers in the country for retail sales. So again, if you find one on the shelf somewhere, that's one to snap up. And here at Freedom Fighter Tactical, as far as the recoil tubes go, we actually sell them in a 1 position, we sell them in a 3 position, and we sell them in a 6 position. We do the 1 position, Benelli already does the 1 position all the way out. Nobody wants that. But we do a 1 position with the gun completely collapsed because we want it for blue state customers who live in states where you cannot have a functioning collapsible stock on it. So I've actually got one right here. So this firearm right here, this shotgun, this is my first Benelli M4 shotgun, and it has a 1 position skeletonized stock on it. So it's in the fully collapsed position, and it won't adjust to any other position. You can remove it, but it's fixed to the 1 position so that I can have, if I want, I haven't done a middle spot, but I've done the fully collapsed, and then Benelli offers it in the fully extended in the 1 position. So if you're in New York or Illinois, I honestly don't know if these are outlawed in New York, Illinois, or Connecticut, Massachusetts, all the blue states that like the vile gun laws. I don't know what their gun laws are as far as skeletonized stocks and if they function or not, but in California, you can have a skeletonized stock on this gun so long as it's non-adjustable. So this one is non-adjustable. You can simply remove it or have it in the fully collapsed position. So that's what I did here for this shotgun. And for people like me who are in California and who want to build the gun legally, having the gun in where it goes in multiple positions in California is against the California assault weapons ban. So that's that. So what you see here are 3 tubes made by Freedom Fighter Tactical. This is the 1 position, the 3 position, and the 6 position. Okay, most people are going to want the 3 or the 6. We offer the 1, like I said, we offer the 1 position for the California crowd or the blue state crowd. And at some point I will do a middle position, which is going to be equal to the middle position that Benelli has on their recoil tubes, but I just haven't done one yet because, I mean, I know the demand is there, but I just wanted to see what the demand would be on the 1 position closest in first. Okay, so when you buy these tubes, whether it's a Benelli tube or a Freedom Fighter Tactical tube, you're gonna see a couple of different numbers. You're gonna see 70130 and 70043. If you see these numbers without the FF at the end, that means those are original Benelli tubes. If you see those tubes with a FF at the end, it means Freedom Fighter Tactical made those tubes. The 70130 is simply a hollow tube. There are no internals installed. When you buy it from us, whether you buy an original Benelli or you buy a Freedom Fighter Tactical, you're gonna have a nut that comes with it. And the reason why I sell the nut with it is because there are a lot of threading mismatches between, even with Benelli nuts and Benelli tubes. I've found threading mismatches. I've found threading mismatches in every way imaginable. So I thread one of these on every single tube I sell, so that if a customer calls me up and says, yeah, the nut won't fit, I already know the nut fit because I put one on every tube. So either you've used a different nut or a different tube or something else is going on. So I want to make sure that when you get your tube that it's going to thread. I've never found threading mismatches with the shotgun, with the receiver. So just with the nut. So, you know, maybe I'll see that someday where a tube isn't screwing into the receiver properly. But in 20 years, I've never heard of that ever. The 70130, again, it's a hollow tube with just the nut. And what you're gonna do if you buy this version is you're going to remove the recoil tube from your current gun, and you're gonna remove the internals from your recoil tube and transfer them over to this new tube. So if you're going from a one position tube because you just bought your gun and it has a one position skeleton stock on it, you're gonna buy the 70130 and you're going to take your tube off, move all the internals over to this new tube, and then put this new tube on your gun. And now you're gonna be left with a hollow one position tube that you can probably just throw away because nobody on the planet's gonna want that tube. Now, I also sell, and Benelli sells, what's the 70043. This is an assembly. This comes with all the internals already installed for you so that you can just simply take the tube off your gun and put this new tube on. A lot of people want to do it that way because they don't want to screw around with moving the internals over. Moving the internals over is actually a very easy job except for one part. The 70071, it's a little snap ring, a little C-ring, and it's like piano wire, and it's very difficult to remove from your original tube, and it's difficult to install it on the new tube. It's much, much more difficult to remove it though than it is to install it. So if you're going the 70130 route, which means you're gonna transfer all your internals over, you might wanna do yourself a favor and just go ahead and add to your order a 70071 so that you're moving all the other internals over to the new tube, but you've got a new snap ring to put in there, so you don't have to go through the turmoil of removing the ring from your original tube, because it's not fun. But the 70043 removes all that, okay? You're buying convenience. You're buying my time or Benelli's time putting these things together. They cost more than the hollow tube. And I also actually sell this as a kit, the 70043 kit. So there's like 3 price levels. There's the hollow tube where you move your own internals over. There's the kit where you install the internals yourself. And there's the version where it's already all installed for you. And the price is going to be tiered to match the level of labor that goes into building the kit and putting it together and that sort of a thing. So you're gonna have several choices there. The tubes that go with the tubes that go with this stock, as you can see, they have almond-shaped cuts, and they only work with the one stock, the 70085. Moving over to the 70132, it's the same thing. You've got the hollow tube. I don't do kits on this one, but on the 70132 stock, the tubes that match it are the 70135 and the 70136. The 70, I think it's, and I might get this mixed up, but the 70135 I think is the assembly, and the 70136 is the hollow tube. But I might have gotten those two backwards, but either way, it's the same kind of a thing. Now, I sell almost none of these because these tubes already come with the stock that you want that go with these tubes. So there's almost no reason to buy these tubes unless you're buying the stock as well, which I do sell, but it's not the same as the other version where people get the stock with the one position tube and they want the multiple positions. When people buy the Euro stock already on the gun, they already have the 5-position tube. Interestingly enough, even though these two tubes don't cross over with the stocks and the stocks don't cross over with the tubes, the internals and the external nut all are working on both tubes and both stocks. All are necessary for both builds. So those parts do cross over, and that also confuses people. People think that you're gonna have completely different internals on this stock and completely different internals on that stock. No, The only thing different is the recoil tube itself. Everything else is the same. And that's why these tubes, the notches have nothing to do with whether the pistol grip or the field grip stocks work on these guns, or even the Mesa Tactical stocks. They will work with either one of these tubes. So if you buy one of these guns that has either one of these stocks and you decide, hey, I don't like the stock, I want to go to a Mesa Tactical or Rubino stock, you can do that. You can pull the stock right off and put the Mesa on there, no problem. Okay, so many guys ask me, how do you even remove the stock in the first place? And Benelli doesn't provide instructions with removal of the stock. And what you've got to find is that there's little cut lines in the sides of the recoil tubes. And those lines will help you line up where your stock needs to be to access all the different cuts for all the different positions and to remove it. And if you notice on the 3-position tube, there's actually 4 cuts, even though it's a 3-position tube. There's 3 locking positions, 3 locking cuts, but then there's the removal cut, and you have to line up properly to find that removal cut in order to adjust your stock off and pull it off the gun. So a lot of people have trouble with that. Our 6-position tubes actually provide some guidance with some ones and some, we actually number our cuts. We number the cuts that are logical to number, like cut number 1 and cut number 6. Finding number 6 is easy. You pull the stock all the way out and you turn it and you're there. Finding number 1 is easy. You push the stock all the way in and you turn it and you're there. But cuts 2, 3, 4, and 5, those need, and the off position, those are actually marked really well on the 6 position. On the 3 position, whether they're mine or Benelli, you just have to find the little cuts and realize what they are, what they mean, and utilize those to remove your stock. Okay, as far as 922R compliance goes, both of these stocks trigger 922R. They add a part to the gun. So when the gun comes into the country with 13 supposed evil parts, when you add one of these stocks to the gun, or if Benelli adds one of these stocks to the gun, if they're selling a law enforcement, if you're buying a law enforcement version that is not intended for sale to you, it is a 922R concern. So you have 4 parts instead of 3. If you didn't have the stock on the gun, you would have 3 supposed evil parts. You can go to my page, 922rlaws.com, I have videos there. I don't even like to talk about 922R anymore because I have the videos and the resource page there. That's where I like to do the teaching. And there's so many, it's such a gray area, and there's so many ifs, ands, and buts, and this and that. And I don't even like to get started talking about it because it just goes in circles. You either want to comply or you don't, and whether you have to comply or not is definitely a consideration. Some people say you don't, some people say you do. People say that it's an import-only law. No, it's not an import-only law. The law says any person. When it says any person, and it doesn't say any importer, it means any person. So you can go to my resource page. You can go to other manufacturers, people who deal in guns. Go do a 922R search on YouTube and you will find tons of dealers and gunsmiths and gun guys and YouTube influencers who are talking about 922R and explaining it. Believe me, those are the authorities, not people on the internet who have fake names on forums who jump up and down every time someone mentions 922R. They jump up and down in rage and anger about anybody talking about it and tell you it applies to importers only. That's a bunch of nonsense. So, get good information, and you can call me. Of course, I can help you with that. But I send people to my 922R page. I don't even like to talk about it anymore. I don't give instruction on the phone. I don't give instruction in text on 922R. I just send everybody to that page. It's easy to figure out. If you have to read it 10 or 15 times, read it 10 or 15 times. It's better than me talking about it 10 or 15 times. So that's what my resource is there for. So anyway, let's recap. The 70085 is what I've always called the American version stock, the traditional stock. The only tubes that work with this stock are 70043, which is the assembly, and 70132 or 70130, which is the hollow tube. The 70085 will not work with the 5-position 70135 and 70136 tubes that are meant for the European stock. The European stock is 70132. The only recoil tubes for the stock are the 70135 and 70136. This stock will not work with the 70043 or the 70130. All Mesa stocks will work with either tube. all Benelli pistol grip stocks and field stocks that are made for the Benelli M4 will work with either tube. The only time you have to be concerned about the tube is which stock you're putting on which tube. That's it. The 70085, most of us out there in the field, most of us out there, consumers, retailers, whatever, like the 70085 better. We think it looks better, it's iconic. It has a lot more accessories for it than the 70132. There's limb saver butt pads that work on the 70085. Gosh, I haven't even tried if the limb saver butt pads work on the 70132. I bet they do. The ones that I make or that limb saver makes for me that have the hole cut out. I bet they do. I haven't even tried it. But the QD attachments are the best options that you have for QDs are going to be for the 70085. The 70132, I think is an ugly stock, but that's just me. You might love it, and that's okay. Okay, I've actually seen people call it sexy. I've had clients call it sexy. You know what? We each get to choose what we like for ourselves, and that's the beauty of guns. Just like anything else, cars. There's a lot of people out there driving cars that I think are just butt ugly, and these people absolutely adore their car. And there's people that think my car is butt ugly, and they like whatever they like. So it's all good. The 70132 really doesn't have any accessories for it. The QD hole that's at the bottom is not an easy fix. You have to drill out that hole and have the right QD attachment to fit there. I'm going to be doing a separate video for that. You can call me if you need information on that, but I recently talked to my people at Benelli to know exactly what to do and exactly what parts are needed to attach a QD mount to that stock. I've seen it in some pictures online, but I've never seen anybody write it up. So I've got a video coming out soon. By the time you're watching this video, it's probably already in my catalog on YouTube, but I'm gonna have a video where if I'm not doing it, I'm gonna show you what needs to be done, even if I'm just kind of mimicking what needs to be done because I don't have a way to film at a workbench. But I think the 70132 is a big giant chunk of plastic nonsense. I think the 70085 is the way to go. And I mean, it's just amazing. But I get why people are buying the version with the 70132. They think they're getting a new version of the Benelli M4, the Gen 2. It's, you know, even though that's mistaken, they are getting an oversized bolt release button, an oversized charging handle, a rail system, a 7-round mag tube, and a stock that functions to 5 positions. So that's quite a nice thing for a lot of people because it takes a lot of the accessory buying and configuring off the table. So I get why people are buying it, but it's not a new version M4. It's not a version that's going to take over M4. It's not an answer to Beretta or SIG or anybody else. It's not this, it's not that. It's simply a law enforcement only version that happened to be sold to the public at some gun store somewhere. You happen to find it, and that's what it is. It's not anything but that. Like Benelli told me, if they're making a Gen 2, they're gonna call it an M5. That's just what he said. He kind of laughed at the idea of Gen 2. He said he gets why people are calling it that. He says, I guess so. But he said it's just a law enforcement version alternative. That's all it is. So that's the difference between those two stocks in recap. Okay, so if you're gonna install a recoil tube or any of these stocks, whatever, do you need a gunsmith? Look, if you're popping off if you're taking a Benelli pistol grip stock and you're taking that off your gun and you find that you have a 3-position recoil tube underneath your stock, which almost every single one of them, in fact, probably all of them have, all you're gonna need is the stock itself and put it right on the gun. You're not gonna need to buy a new recoil tube. The only time you would need a new recoil tube is if you have a 1-position recoil tube on the gun and you want multiple positions. I always recommend if you have a pistol grip or field stock on your gun when you buy it, that you remove it before you start buying to determine what recoil tube you have on it. 100% of the time you should have a 3-position recoil tube on there. But as soon as I say that it's as certain as the sun rising in the morning, there's gonna be somebody out there who pops their thing off and says their stock off and they're gonna find a 1-position tube there. So always check. It will save you time, save you money, save you headache. Always check, okay? But if you're having to remove the recoil tube from your gun, it is Loctited in place. It is gonna have to be burnt out with a heat gun. It's not fun work. It's work that I recommend most of you do with a gunsmith if you're very handy. And you know, people call me up, well, do you think I could do it? I don't know you. I don't know your skills. I don't know your abilities. I don't know your workbench. I don't know your tool set. So I can't really tell you if you can do it yourself. But if you build guns, you take apart guns, you work on guns, you fix guns, and you've been doing that your whole life, you probably have a good chance of just doing this yourself. If you're new to guns and you know you changed out your mag tube and you're feeling pretty confident and you want to go for it, go for it. But if you're having any sort of hesitation, let the gunsmith do it, okay? It's not fun work. You know, I've seen people get them off very, very easily. I've seen people have to almost destroy the gun to get it off. So, you know, you never know what you're gonna get. It's like a box of chocolates. You just don't know how much Loctite they've put on that tube. And that's gonna dictate how hard or easy it is for you to remove it. Another thing about installing the tube, you have to calibrate the tube properly, okay? The tube has to thread into the gun just perfectly for a couple things. One, to have the right length of the stock. Two, to operate with the bolt assembly and the link properly. I'm not gonna go into how all that works, but the bolt assembly has what's called a link on it, and the link goes all the way back and fits into the plunger in the recoil tube. And when the bolt operates, the spring in the recoil tube helps reset everything, helps reduce the recoil. It does a number of things. But the tube has to be clocked in properly. If you want the stock to fit straight, this has been a problem for Benelli. Benelli has sold plenty of these guns where the stock is ever so canted one way or the next. And gunsmiths will work on your gun and give you your stock and it'll be canted slightly. It's not a defect in the stock. It's not a defect in the tube. It's simply that the tube is not calibrated to the right spot so that when it is in its final locking resting position, the stock is straight. And actually, I just installed this stock and tube yesterday. And it took me about 20 minutes of I had to take the trigger group out in order to remove the grip, in order to remove the stock, and calibrate the tube with the nut and get everything to where it's just right so that it's perfectly straight. And even when I do that, I can still kind of just ever so slightly send it one way or the next. So we're looking for perfection. We all are, but it's not always there. It's not always perfect. It's not always ideal. Sometimes it's, you know, whatever. But if you buy a gun where the stock isn't calibrated, or you get it back from the gunsmith where it's not calibrated right, or you do it yourself, you just be mindful that you have to calibrate it properly. Now, the first cut is for the closest in position, and it's just under 4 inches from where the resting place of the nut against the receiver is. It's about 4 inches from that nut to the first cut. I think it's like a millimeter less. I don't remember the exact measurements, but it's very, very small, the difference. But it's exact on every single gun that I've played with. But you know what? It probably isn't exact on every single gun, because depending on where the threading on the recoil tube started and where it is on the gun when you start turning, you know, every gun could have its own signature. Every gun could have its own perfect spot. So it's one of those things that has to be played with. Okay, so that about sums it up. I mean, just about every question that I can think of that somebody has about the collapsible stocks and what works and what doesn't has been answered in this video. If you have any questions, please let me know. I appreciate you watching this video. I hope it's helped you in deciding what to do and getting a better understanding of what's going on here with these stocks. I've been working on this video and trying to script it some ways and make pictures and everything for months. So I do hope that you like it. It's going to be, I think, an epic video to help the marketplace understand what's going on with these stocks. Again, check out my web pages. If you're building or if you're buying your gun for the first time, buyyourm4.com. You sign up, it's a free course. You got buildyourm4.com, you sign up, it's a free course. And then if you want to understand 922Rs, 922rlaws.com teaches you everything you need to know. There's videos there of me talking about 922R. But anyway, again, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it's helped all you first responders out there and people in the military and law enforcement who are serving our country in a constitutional capacity. Thank you so much for your service. Thank you for watching, and I will talk to you in the next video. Take care, be safe.